Get started. Welcome to Node.js for Beginners. Why so asynchronous? My name is Ryan, and as you can tell by this image here, I don't take very much too seriously. I'm not so serious. So if you can't stand shenanigans or tomfoolery, this is not the talk for you. It's time to leave. But if you're okay with some shenanigans, then welcome. So we're going to talk about Node.js for Beginners today. I myself am more of a beginner to Node. You know, I've only been coding for about a year intensively, and so, you know, if you're the person that says, you know, well, in the benchmark test against Node, and we took the third participle and divided by Avogadro's number, and we took the quark years of the sun and the rotational gravity and factored it in, it wasn't as fast as this, you know, like, I believe you. Let's have coffee. Let's have coffee, and you can, like, explain that to me, which is great. But, you know, so that's not me, but, you know, I'm pretty advanced at being a beginner, so I'm an advanced beginner. Anyway, that's so anyway, like, you know, don't judge. Let's just have fun. So about me, so my name is Ryan Ciecalone, and if you can see that, that's an Italian name. And Ciecalone is, when people see it, they're kind of like, is that pronounced? It's not. So if you need to remember it, you can think of stick of bologna or sick pony or something like that. My middle name is Christian, and so you'll see Ryan Christian on some of my business materials. And so just keep that in mind. That it's the same person. Obviously, Christian is a lot easier to spell than Ciecalone. So just a little bit about me. I am married. I've been married for 15 years as of this year. I have two daughters, 6 and 11, and my background will play into the talk, so I'm not just trying to play, don't worry. But, and most of the times, obviously having kids is wonderful. On occasion, with 3 ladies in the house, my life is like this. You know, you're talking to one, and you think things are going good, and then the other one's attacking you from the side. This is me. So that's why coding is my escape into an alternate reality. So anyway, I also have a background in pastoral ministry and public speaking. I was a deputy sheriff for 9 years, and so I actually quit to attend Galvanize last year, and the whole thing was like, who let in the co-op? Get the freaking co-op out of here! Hey, the co-op! And so, you know, I'm not going to tase you. Do not worry. I don't like policing people. That's why I'm not doing the job anymore. I was proud to wear the badge, but it was time to move on. So we have that. So I attended Galvanize last year, and we'll talk a little bit about that later on. But great program. If anybody's considering going, or if you have friends that are thinking about it, it's worth every penny. And so that was awesome. Now I work for a company called DigiFlare. DigiFlare, we make TV everywhere apps. So we take a content from like, you know, CNN. We made CNN Go, or we'll take something like the CenturyLinks TV, and we'll put it into a full platform. So we'll throw it on PlayStation, Xbox, iOS, Android, on the web. And I'm a Roku developer, so I write BrightScript. This is a real thing. If you've never heard BrightScript, it's the specialized language for the Roku player. The Roku player is a little tiny black box. It looks just like an Apple TV. This is somebody's grandma. Can't stop looking at it. Let's move on, right? Okay. So this talk is for beginners, and most of you probably know some code, at least in JavaScript or another language. So you know, this is for beginners in coding, to coding in general. We're going to try to make it simplified. Also for beginners to server code, perhaps if you're a front-end dev and you either want to learn some back-end code just because you're curious, or you want to build your own apps, that kind of thing, or you communicate constantly with your back-end team and you want to figure out just a little bit more about what that's all about. This is a great place to start with Node, especially because if you're already writing JavaScript as a front-end dev, the transition should be fairly easy for you to pick up. At least the syntax won't be a blocker for you. Also, for those experienced in other code bases who are curious about Node, also the Node pros who are here to judge me. I know there's a few right there. So, you know, any Node pros in the room that have been writing Node for a couple years and like just they're afraid to raise their hands. Oh, so I'm looking at you. Anyway, all right. Also, people who are looking for the Killer with Fire talk and wandered in here by mistake, welcome. They're at the other location. One point, just to keep things calm during the talk, if there's a Pokemon in the room, contain yourself. Chill the frick track out, okay? So why learn Node.js? So let's take a look. So first of all, obviously we're not going to learn Node.js in an hour. We're going to get an overview. What is Node? When we're going to use it? We'll look over some basic code samples. And then as I shared in the synopsis for the talk online, that we'll have some resources you can take a look at that will get you started in learning Node. So we'll do an overview. I'll have a link to the resources. And I want to say that it's just a blog post. So you're welcome to comment on that blog post if you have a resource that you really like. Or if you have questions about the integrity of the resources I provided, you have a better one, please let us all know. As a community, hopefully we're all friends here, and we'd like to grow and learn together. So that's what we're doing. Next slide here. So Node.js is great for real-time apps that require persistent connection between the client and the server. So if you think about a simplified, like a chat app, just on a basic level, Node has the ability to keep sockets open, so we're getting notifications back and forth from the client and the server. So somebody posts a message, it's going to pop up. Wow, that was exciting. It's going to pop up in the browser on your side. When you send a message, it's going to notify everybody else. So it's great for this real-time environment. And also, if you're familiar with building a SPA, a single-page application, Node is fantastic at sending out pieces of code, which means that you would set up your web page in its entirety, and then when you need to reload something on the page, instead of reloading the entire web page, you're just going to send some JSON over from the server, and you're going to be able to refresh the data, so it's much faster, and it's a really clean user experience. Node is great because it's multi-platform, so we can pull it into iOS, Linux, and Windows. When you install it, you just go to nodejs.org, download it, and it's super easy. It's free and open sourced, and it's great to consider that point, because I have a friend who is writing Cold Fusion, and when he got his Cold Fusion job, I know, like Turtle, like cold, yeah, cold, and there's a purpose behind that, because they're writing apps for people that have to have support in like India, and they're still, I think they just killed Explorer 8. Internet Explorer 8, so like really, really old stuff. But as he was looking over that, like he couldn't find tutorials, he couldn't find anything, largely because like there's this giant licensing fee, and they really wanted to keep it like this corporate environment. You really have to pay to play. So Node is not only is it great, it's also free and open source. So just because something's free, obviously we know that doesn't mean that it's great, right? So my wife's grandmother, at one point in time, she was at a store, and they had a free pair of shoes, and the shoes were free because they were both left shoes. And so she took them home and she wore them. It was a bad story, obviously, like they didn't work for her, and then she tried to give them away to somebody else, and it's like, oh, grandma, don't do it. So just because it's free doesn't mean that it's good. However, the benefits of Node are it's free, it's supported by a large community, and it's continually evolving in a great way. So don't be worried by the fact that it is free, and most of us should be used to looking at open source software. So also, if you're a JavaScript developer and you're writing JavaScript on the client, you also have the convenience of writing JavaScript on the server. And so it's continuous as far as your code base talking back and forth between the two. It readily accepts JavaScript in both ways, so you don't have to switch your mindset if you're writing as a full stack dev. So pretty awesome. Also, Node is fast, Node is scalable. Again, JavaScript is beautiful. And I want to clarify that JavaScript isn't built entirely in Node. So in 2009, Ryan Dahl pulled out the V8 engine from the Google Chrome browser. And he took that engine along with libuv, which is, libuv is what offers the asynchronous part of JavaScript. And we'll talk about the benefits of asynchronous code in a little bit here. But he pulled that out, and he built Node. And so, the V8 engine is built in C++. So really, we have a mix of C++, JavaScripts, and different libraries that are all melded together, and it allows us to communicate with the server by using JavaScript. So you could say, if you wanted to, that Node isn't written in JavaScript largely, but we use JavaScript to communicate with Node. So some people that freak out when they hear JavaScript on the server, that's it. Like they really freak out. And, but it's not JavaScript in its entirety. Again, we're using JavaScript as the means to communicate. And some people are like, well, I write Java, well, I wrote C++, and and as they start to get into lower level languages, the one guru's in the corner with the keyboard that has the 0 and the 1. He's like, I'm writing my app in binary. Oh my gosh! So we're writing in JavaScript. It's okay. So So Node.js is asynchronous. So asynchronous programming is not a new concept. It just does asynchronous code really well. And in some other coding paradigms, you spin up a couple other threads as worker threads to do something for you to give that code back. Node is, although it has a thread pool that it works with, you can research that later if you want to. It's good to read. But Node actually works in a single thread, so it has this loop, and it will take data and it will pull off activities from this loop that it needs to do. And instead of writing blocking code, which again we know for blocking code, if you were to click a button that says like get me this like big long text file, and if you're writing synchronous blocking code, because Node is non-blocking I/O, at what point it would actually stop your entire program while it's waiting for that process to complete. And so what Node does for us is that it says, okay, I see that you want this. It will go out asynchronously, so you're able to run other bits of code, and it will let you know when that task is done. So we'll dig into that here in just a few minutes. But when I talk about asynchronous code and Node, to me, asynchronous code is a lot like ordering a pizza, because ordering a pizza is an asynchronous process. So what if you had to wait by the door synchronously to get your pizza? So you call up, you order your pizza, and during that entire, let's just say 30 minutes for the sake of argument, and this is memorable, trust me, there's a point. You're like, I gotta go, my mom's calling. So, if you had to wait by the door and you're waiting for this pizza guy, and you were doing nothing else but just standing there, life would suck. You would not order pizza. And this is what the synchronous model does for the end user, especially now we're so used to things being so fast. When I was a lad, because I'm 35, but when we used to have dial-up, you'd wait 5 minutes for a video or a game or something to load. Now it's like if it's not up in 2 seconds, I'm hitting refresh and thinking there's an error. So, you're forced to wait by the door and do nothing. So you could look for faster solutions. You realize that even though the pizza's not as good across the street, they'll do it in 20 minutes. So you start ordering there, and your 20 minutes is like a slow death, and you'd rather not eat pizza. And so you're like, I'll call Jimmy John's, and they're there in 10 minutes. And so you're still stuck, and you're still waiting, and you're still like, I'm hungry, but it sucks to order food this way. So you're looking for another solution. So enter the asynchronous model. So you order your pizza, you're blocked for a moment while you place the order, but after that you can do things. You can walk the dog, you can write some code, you can take a nap, whatever you like to do, but go hang out with your family, whatever that is. But during that time, you're waiting for the doorbell. The doorbell is your callback. So in JavaScript, you write your task function where you say, hey, JavaScript, go do this thing for me, and then you give it a callback, an anonymous function that says, when it's done, run this code. So when it's done, let me know that my task is finished, or handle it in a certain way. So you're waiting, and you're not blocked. You still have to be at home. You still have to be engaged and waiting for the doorbell. But as soon as you hear it, you're able to go out, answer the door, and get your pizza, which is awesome. So you also have a chance. One of the principles in Node is that Node is error first. So when you write a callback, you'll see the first thing you pass through as an argument is your error. So if it gives you back any errors, you can handle those first, and you can say either stop the program or do something else, or try to get the request again, or let the user know. You can do several things at once, which is really great. So at your pizza at the door, you have a chance to take a look and be like, I didn't order olives. All of those things you get to look through and say, you handle that error, and if it's all good, bring the pizza inside and eat, which is awesome. So it's true, of course, that asynchronous programming has been around for a long time, but Node has really improved it. So this is what ordering pizza is like with other paradigms. So when you used to order pizza, you guys remember phone books? I haven't seen a phone book in a couple of years. So you'd have to go find the phone book. If it was by the phone, you were unlocked, but if somebody used it to as a booster seat or something like that, you're out finding the phone book, you leaf through the book, you find the page, if your family member hasn't torn it out already, and there's 17 listings for Domino's. And so you're looking through the Domino's pizza listings, and you can call Domino's pizza if you want. If you're not in that camp, that's okay, So just insert the pizza chain of your choice. But so you call Domino's, after you found sometimes you have to look on the map, find the one you think is closest, and then all of a sudden, you call them, and it was the rotary phone, and there was a cord. Phones used to have cords, and it was had the dial, and so you would spin the dial to the number you wanted, and so you would dial, and it would take 5 minutes for you just to ring the phone number, and then you'd call the pizza place and they'd say, oh, we don't deliver to you, call this one. So you'd call the other one, and then and after that they would send you a pizza. And the pizza process, they still cook it with delicious melted cheese and wonderful sauce and tasty toppings. Dog food. So, it's still the same way. They still drive in cars, although one day you may get your pizza via drone delivery. That may change, but that process, so, servers are still there, memory and RAM and processors are still there in the background, but the way that we're handling the process, you'll see in a minute, is different. So then the driver gets there and you're like, I'm going to pay by a check, I have to fill out a check. Or if you pay by credit card, they have those little tiny blocks with a piece on top, and they put a carbon paper in your credit card and go and then they have a copy and they take it back to the store and run your credit card, and you're like, it's just crazy. And so now, at this point in time, I order pizza the Node way, which is great. I pull out my smartphone, I pull up the app, it tells me where I am, it tells me where so sometimes I don't know where I am. So it tells me my location, and then it gives me, the closest pizza chain. I say, give me pizza, credit card, and then half an hour later it shows up, which is great. And then at the door, they either give you a slip to sign, or the other day, the lady handed my wife a phone, and she just signed with her finger and then left the tip. It's awesome. So it's still an asynchronous process, but we found ways to make it better by the application of technology, which is what Node has done. Also, the great thing about Node is I just bring up Domino's because this is what they've done. If you order online with Domino's, they have this pizza tracker. So it tells you, Billy has begun making your order. And there's a little guy that you have to mute because he's really annoying. Domino's makes delicious cheese. Shut up. So you mute that, but you see okay, they prepared it, it's in the oven, it's out of the oven, it's out for delivery. So you're getting this immediate feedback from Domino's that your pizza will be there in about 5 minutes, which is awesome. And you can do the same thing with Node.js. So as you are reading a file, Node.js will let you get it back in chunks. So you're not just trying to stream the entire file at once, you get back pieces of the file, and you'll pull it from a readable stream, you'll read it, and then you'll put it into your writable code base area, and you'll get that in pieces, so that if there's an error or something like that, you don't have to start at the beginning again. But also, you can give feedback to the user and say, we have 25% of the chunks. We now have 60% of the chunks, and so you can tell them via some type of feedback, that, hey, we are 80% of the way there. And the user gets this amazing, real-time Node.js deliciousness right in their browser. So it's really great. And I did have a Goonies picture for that, but I didn't get a chance to play it in, so sloth was chunk. Anyway, so the foundations of Node, and I went over a few of these. So debuted in 2009, has taken some time to mature, of course, but so Ryan Dahl created it in 2009. If you want to look up talks on Ryan Dahl, he'll tell you why he did it and all that stuff in the background. It's really not necessary, but if you're really curious of where it started. Again, we're using V8 to get it rocking, and so it's super fast, it's great code, and Google is on it, they're updating it constantly, so it's really easy to keep it current. So, if you ask maybe where shouldn't I use Node, Node isn't the best choice for super data intense operations. So there are ways to handle that, either to use another piece of software or to spawn child processes in Node, and that's way beyond what I know for Node, but you can take a look into that if that's what you really want to do with Node. So to get started, here's a really simple, download Node. You also get Node's package manager, which is great. So there are all kinds of awesome code packages out there. So it's as simple as typing in npm install. If you want it globally, there's a -global tag, and then it pulls down whatever piece of code that you want. So it's really easy to pull in add-ons. It's super simple to do that. So let's take a look at some code here. Give me just a sec to. So this is my dog Ringo. You're like, yes, there he is. Yes, he's an Australian cattle dog, so he's, so he's Australian and amazing. Okay.
So I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Is the focus broken on the projector, or does somebody just need to adjust it?
If somebody wants to try our, oh, there he is. Where's our main guy that set this up? Please, you're not gonna be able to read a darn thing.
Try the other ring.
It's glorious.
Yeah. I'll knock it over.
Yeah, that's
See Zoom, but no.
Everybody gather around the screen here.
Close.
A little further.
That's as far as it goes. Unless there's a focus screen.
What you do is exciting.
No, back. There we go, yeah, that's it.
So, and I did want to say, just when it comes to the balance of just, as long as I have a break in the presentation here, like there are some people that get really like crazy about new technology, where they get really aggressive toward it, and they're like, well, I was writing Scala and this and that for, like I mentioned. And then you also get the people that are like super crazy fanboys, and this is how they sound in my head. And it's something like this, like, do you feel as though the Batmobiles of life are encroaching in upon you? Try Node.js. Like, what? The Batmobiles of life? Like, what the heck? I don't know. Is your grass brown and dead, but it's not green and long, and it's full of weeds? Try Node.js. My lawn looks green. Like, okay, so Node.js is not going to solve every problem for you, and Node.js isn't going to take over the market, and all the code bases that have been around for years and years, and all the back-end technology is going to go away. That's not the case. It is a great compliment, though, and it's a joy to code in, and sometimes some people kind of get crazy, and they're like, it's like you're hammering, with a hammer, and they come in like, that's a stupid tool. Like, what's that hammer? I'll run a jackhammer outside. Like, I just need to hammer a nail into the wall. I'm like, try my jackhammer. So, anyway, we're going to take a look at some simple code pieces. Rather than typing these out, I'm just going to uncomment them, and then we will run them. But first, I just want to show you basically. Oh, if that responded, that would be great. Let me see. Awesome. All right, let's see. A little bit bigger? Is that bigger? No, too much. Right there? Okay. So if we just type in node, it will run node, and you get a REPL loop, read, evaluate, print loop. And so you can do like, 1 plus 2, it'll give you 3, nothing crazy. If you ever need to test things out, var a equals 1, yay, var b, not to bore you like anything crazy, but if you ever needed one, and then you can do like an a plus b. So it's just on its own, it's already evaluating from the engine. So you can just do a couple of pieces of this after you've installed, just to make sure that you're getting everything back. And then it's just Control C a couple times to get out of there from wherever you're operating from. So that's Node in the command line. And if we take a look here, this is just a really simple hello world piece of code that just shows you an example of how Node does its callback. So on line 3, we have a set timeout function, an anonymous function that will console log hello world after 2.5 seconds, 2,500 milliseconds. And then we have console log hello. And so the point here is that we want to get hello world back out of this, and not world hello. And so, and again, this set timeout is just representing work. So we are asking on line 3, like, hey Node, and on a typical function where I'm asking you to do some work for me, I want you to go out to the server and do this thing for me, go fetch it for me, and then give me some data back. And it's going to take some time. So what Node does is, if you just rock into, just declare Node and what you want to run, app.js. Oh, that's disconcerting, isn't it? That's great, that makes me happy. So let me save my file. Yay, thank you so much. It helps if you save, isn't it? So, we get hello and then we get world, because what Node does here for us is that on line 3, obviously it's calling the function, it's not blocking, it's saying, I'm going to set this aside, let it do the work, and again, the 2.5 seconds, it doesn't matter that we call it set time, it's just representing I'm going out to the server to do work. In the meantime, I'm going to go down to number 7, I'm going to console log hello, and then once my set time out, once my work is done, I'm going to come back and give you world. So that's like a super basic example of what that means. So I want to take kind of a sidebar here and take a look at, before we look at a web server, just give you the basics of how Node encapsulates code for you. So obviously, like we want to write clean modular code, and we don't want variables and whatnot just leaking out into the global namespace to pollute things. And so this is an example of what Node gives us as a require function. So anytime that we need to pull something into our app, so in this case, app.js is my starting point, and so we're going to pull in from app.js, greet, Indexjs, and I'll move this up so y'all can see a little better. Yay! And so what this is going to do, if we go out and we take a look at our greet Indexjs folder, which is over here on the left, this is our greet folder, and this is our Indexjs. Just like index.html, we're using this as a starting point, and we're going to gather all of our files and our data, and you can imagine that this page is full of awesome code instead of just like 7 lines. But like it's going to gather all of these things together to a single entry point, and it's going to give us modules where that code is protected through either, through an IFI, if you're acquainted with that, and whatnot. So right now what we're doing is we are pulling in English and Spanish. We're just going to say hello and hola. And so we have to require these. The require, again, will go out and grab English and Spanish. And in Node, if you see like a stock something they provided for you, you just be able to call it without anything else, without a path. But in this case, it's something we've custom built. You can make your own modules if you want to. And so if we go out to English.js, this is really simple. This code will kind of live in its own space. So what we're doing is we're pulling in our JSON. This represents going out maybe to grab something from a database, and just a quick look at greetings.json just gives us English, hello, and Espanol, hello. So, yeah. Yay. So we have that, and it's pulling in greetings.json, so it's saying, I need to read this. So this sometimes would be a task in here where you're saying, go out to this website and give me JSON, or go out to the database and give me JSON, go somewhere and give me JSON. And then you write your function, which is just var greet, super easy, and then I want to console log greetings.english. And then what you have to do in Node to get your code out so that it can be used by other files is to export it. So you call module.exports, which is a native Node function, and in this case, all that we want to export is the greet function. So you won't have access to greetings, you only have access to greet. So if there are any variables else that I call outside of here on line 2, etc., you're not going to be able to access those unless I actually export them. You can export a function straight from this line. So you could actually write module.exports and then just start typing an anonymous function, that kind of thing. And you can actually export that out as well. So it's really simple to keep your code clean and ready to rock. So we're going to export this out to greet. As greet, we're making it available to other files. So if we pop into index.js, you can see again we're pulling in, we're requiring the expose module English. We're also requiring Spanish, and then we're exporting this again because again we have all these files we're bringing into the one index file, and we're going to export that as English, Spanish. That's fancy, right? And so what that will do for us is here again we require it, and sorry if the chain is confusing, but once you're used to seeing Node, you'll get this. We're pulling in greet, and then we're able to call these functions as standalone functions from Node.js. So if I go back into Node.js and I call that, I get my hello from greetings.json and hola from greetings.json. So I'm not bilingual. My friend Lance was saying he could do some sign language, but he only knows like 2 words and one's dirty, right? So this is the example of how we get code back and forth in Node.js and how Node takes care of making sure that everything is compartmentalized as it should be. So with that in mind, we're going to go up and take a look at just starting a simple server. And again, none of this is like Node rocket science, but if you haven't seen it before, it's pretty cool because it's pretty simple. And I've written some Go, and if you're writing Golang, starting a server is very similar as well. But the paradigm for people in Go is a lot different than the JavaScript mindset. And so this is great. They've written an HTTP module for us on line 19 that we are requiring, and that's all code that's built into Node. So if you actually go into your Node modules, into the Node core, you'll see that they've written all this awesome HTTP code that allows us to take care of the hypertext transfer protocol stuff coming, to and from the internet, because the server has to be able to communicate online. So this is what they've done for us. It's already built in HTTP. So we have to require that, and then we just call http.createServer, and on the server, they've given us our request and our response. So for the server, of course, the client gives a request, the server gives back a response. So in this case, we're not dealing with a request, but simply we're going to give a response. And so on line 23, we're just going to write a header, super easy header. In this case, we're going to give back a 200 response code, and then we'll just tell it, what we want to output. So the browser will accept that this is plain text, and we're just going to write res end, which is just the end of our. You can also do res.write if you want to write more things. You wouldn't do this conventionally because obviously it's painstakingly it's not conventional. Yeah, you would. With me? We're good? It's hot in here?
Yeah.
Yeah? I'm out of stuff to say. I have 20 minutes left, so we're just going to this is synchronous right here. Anyway, so we're gonna throw out hello world to the browser, or you can also curl this if you want to, and we're going to listen on 1337, and we're going to send it out to the local host, which is 127.0.0.1, which is awesome. So once I've saved that, thank you. We'll run app.js, and at this point, we've started the server and it's listening, and so it's not going to close because before it ran like hello and hola, it didn't have any work to do, so it just exited. In this case, we're listening on the server, so if we rock into our browser, we will see that our hello world shows up there on localhost 1337. You can also see via the dev tools at the bottom. We can't see any of this. Whoa. I got too excited, sorry. So, we see you can see our request at the bottom. This is what happens when you don't plan ahead. I'll just make this a little bit bigger. So in our header, we send over our header, request URL 1337, get, there's our code coming through, which is okay. If you can see all this, it's not super pertinent info, but you can just see that it's coming through from Node, which is great. So when we look at this, kill this process, and let's take a look now at just another simple example. We're going to send over some HTML instead, because you're like, it's great to write things, but really it's kind of dumb. So straight in app.js like this. So we're going to take a look. At this point, we have two things: HTTP and the file system, which allows you to read from files and to write to files and that whole kind of thing, which is great. So down below, we've set up a similar thing. We're going to write the head 200, but in this case, we've changed our text to HTML. So if we left this just to come out with all the angle brackets and everything in the browser, unless the browser does some magic to say, did you mean HTML? So this isn't anything that's super crazy rocket science, but this is a basic example of how we start to do templates out into the browser. So at this point, and you probably wouldn't write this yourself either, but we're just doing HTML. We're going to read from a file called index.htm, which I've placed down here. Super basic. We're going to see hello from index.htm. And so it will read this file, and it's going to throw it out, spin it out to the server. So if we save that and reload, yay. Now, one of the things about Node, and we'll talk in a few minutes about some task runners. So if I go back to here, if I actually change some of the text in here, it's not going to automatically refresh and show up. If I change index to HTML, it might, but normally to get changes to show up, you'd have to restart your server, and Node doesn't do that automatically, and some of you guys have been writing code in other languages, you're like, a long time, I was that mad. And so anyway, so you get this, and so we're going to talk about task runners in just a moment. So let's move on, because I don't want to bore you with any other examples. If you wanted to just take a look at it, I'm not really going to go into it, but this is another way to, again, I have a read file sync, which I can do synchronously. I also have fs.read file, and you can see that there's a callback function here, and I have my error on the bottom of 57. and my data that's coming back through. So if there's an error, I can catch that when it comes through. I can write code below that to say, on error, again, like restart the server, check again, tell the user didn't come through, do something with that. If not, the data will come through, and in this case, we're just pulling in greet.txt, which is just hello again. So that's how you would, this is how you see the difference between something that's synchronous on 53 that just says like, hey, this is what you're going to get. You can't do anything with it. Like, it may suck for you. And on 57, like, this is our async convention doing the same thing. So, does that make sense, everybody? Any questions about that? Cool. We're going to cover a couple more things, then we'll wrap up. And y'all can go outside and breathe the free air. So, we'll take a look at this. This code base here, all of this came from a Yeoman generator, and it's on the blog post that I'll give to you. And if you want to download it, it's from Galvanize. It's just type in Yo Galvanize Express, and it will give you all of this code that's all set to go. So this code in itself, it has our app.js, and this is an actual working example of how much you might see in an actual app.js to run the app. So like we're using Express. Express is a great framework. It gives you the basic. If you're a Ruby person, it's kind of like Sinatra-esque, if you will. And of course, it's great to have a nice framework that's always going to give you the basics that you need, because who wants to write all that code yourself? So if you ever wanted to look through, the awesome thing is if you really wanted to like change Express or fork it or do whatever, you can. You can go to Node modules and look at everything that Express has here. And as you can see, there's like a ton of stuff that it's doing for us. So Express is awesome. If you don't like Express, find something else. If you want to write your own from scratch, more power to you, go for it. So we have all of this stuff here, and so we have all of our, we declare our dependencies, our main dependencies. This also allows you to declare routes as well, and I'm just doing again a basic overview. We're not going to write or discuss in depth any code, but if you look at your routes here in Indexjs, this is our, like if we're going to do a GET request, we can have it go to // or like landing page, or like whatever you want that to be in the browser's URL. In this case, it's just on the main in the root there, and we still see our requirements here with require. And so we require Express. We declare that there's a router. Express is doing this router magic for us. So we don't have to write it. And then down here we're doing module exports. So we're making sure that we're sending out router entirely so that we can use it in other places. So pretty nifty. We also have down here View Engine. In this case, we're using Swig. As I'll show you some Swig in just a moment. It's just a templating engine, and it will send out templates in HTML from the server to the front end. Now, there's lots of stuff you can use. If you're an Angular person, you can match this up with Angular. This is where you would declare Angular potentially if you wanted to. You can, you throw in React or Sales.js, whatever you want to do. So that's all up to you on how you want to use this. But just in this case, this is where we are setting up for Swig. So we're setting up our view engine on line 22 to be HTML. We can have view engines to be, all kinds of different things, whatever your app requires. So you've got that. You have middleware. Middleware is just a piece of software that's sandwiched in between the client and the server. So if you're going to send up JSON and you want it to be formatted or scrubbed or something like that, you can have it be generated in Node.js or wherever you get it from. Or if you're pulling it from the internet, you have a piece of middleware that says, before I serve it up to the client, I want you to scrub it, or I want you to do XYZ with it. And it doesn't have to be JSON. Middleware can do a bunch of different things. So if you want middleware, that's all it means. It's just a piece of software that will, it's like a filter. It's like having a water filter. You're like, we have the, Brita, 7-stage filter, and it passes through all these reverse osmosis stuff. Like, that's all it is. Like, you're getting water from the municipal, water, and then it goes through all the filters, and it gives you hopefully purified tap water. So middleware can purify or change or alter whatever you need to do. And so when you see that, you have to research more like what middleware is and if you really needed certain pieces of middleware. Down here we're catching an error, which is, I know this is the point at the top you're all waiting for. It's my favorite. Not really. So this is just us catching an error. You see in this on line 42 you have request, response, and then next it's just saying like, you know, we're going to handle a request, we're going to handle a response, then we're going to pass this on. So next just declares, hey, we're going to move on. And again, you know, this may be clicking for you. You could be a Node person who's like, that's wrong. Or you could just be like, you could be getting this, but the point is to give you a broad overview so that when you go to study some of this on your own, you'll have a place to start. So there's that. We also have an awesome thing here called gulp. Now, when I mentioned before that you have to restart the server, gulp is amazing because it will do several things for you. Gulp is a task runner. And so here we're just on line 5. We're requiring gulp into our app, and we have some other pieces there. We're pulling in Nodemon. Nodemon helps to restart the server, so instead of having to go in and manually restart it, every time that you save, every time that I save in my text editor, it's going to automatically update and refresh my page. So you know, when you're writing, it means that there's not a restart, there's not a refresh, it's super easy. You can also have it minify your code. You can have it do lots of stuff. Here's some gulp tasks. You know, the browser sync with Nodemon is it's setting my port to 5000. It's letting me know that Nodemon, every time I make a change, I want you to refresh this for me. So it's pulling that in, you know. And so this is like just a basic out of the box, like here's some stuff for you to use with gulp. And so the great thing is that instead of actually, at this point, starting my app with Node.js, seller, clear, there we go. We just type in gulp. See that? So what it did for me was it went out and ran everything. It automatically pulled up a window. It pulled up localhost 5000. It did the refresh for me. Everything is here. And this is the joy of Node.js. When you have some of these basics set up, then you can start looking at your app. You can say, you know, I want to use this, you know, this front, I'm going to build a spot with Angular. Or, you know, I'm going to use React or whatever. This is where the joy is of like, I'm going to start building with my front end and I'm going to start sending code from the server on over, and you can start you know, taking care of your routes and what you want to send up. So just real quick, in the back end, if we want to make a change in our views, these are our templates that we're sending over. So here's our, on line 10, our title, which is just a template. It's actually coming from another file where it says express. And then welcome to title. So this is where on the web page it says express, welcome to express. The cats are now happy. What's awesome is if our cats are, you know, our cats are sad. Once you save, this starts getting to it, and then if you go back to your browser, you'll see the cats are now sad. It's a somber moment. So anyway, you know, and as soon as you change that back because you realize it was a mistake, you know, this refreshes, your browser's refreshed, it's awesome. So that's just a basic example of what Express and Gulp can do for you working in tandem. Again, if you decide that you want to pull down Node and you want to build your own app from scratch, I encourage it. If you're a learner that likes to have the full package of code and you say, like, I just need to have this and I'm going to hack around and find out from there, please do that. Learn in the way that you want to learn Node, and the tools are there for you. Again, on the link, you just go to the Galvanize link and it tells you how to install Yeoman and the Yeoman generator. And if you want to start an app, you just go into your file, hit Yo Galvanize Express, and this is where you get a start point. So you get an automatic, like a basic. The cats are now happy. That's not really part of the app; it just says Express. But the cats are now happy kind of app, and you're ready to rock. And there are other pieces you might want to use out there instead of Express. Socket.io is great for that true like open socket. I want to build a game. You can configure Express or other frameworks to do those kind of things for you, but Socket.io is great for that, just to say like, here, you're ready to rock, I'm going to make it easy for you. And so you have that. You also have a fully functional framework in Meteor. If you want to go look at Meteor, I know people are doing production apps in Meteor. We'll see how that's borne out. But it seems like Meteor has done a good job. They're staying in business, and it's an awesome place to go to if you're looking for like a simplified, fast build on an app. So that's in a nutshell. That's Express. That's just a brief thought about Meteor and about Socket.io, and just a brief look at what our code base looks like in a working Node app. It's all of this. So it's all of recording stuff, figuring out what you're going to send over to the client. You know, when they request it, you're going to send it back and handle errors. So that's Node.js. That's it for my time. I tried to stay at 45 minutes, which like is awesome. Just turned 10:45. So I'm just going to pull this back up real quick and just show you this. So this is me. Feel free to connect with me on Twitter, on LinkedIn. This is on my website, RyanChristianMedia.com. Develop Denver, Node.js. That's the blog post. Like I said, please go on there, check out the resources, please, and take a photo if you want to remember this as well. And I'll leave this up for a little while. But make sure that you let us know if there's a tool or a class or a lesson or something like that you really love from Node. Like, help us out, join the community on that. Point us in the right direction. And if there are good tools, I'll go ahead and put those in the top of the blog post as well, so everybody can have access to that. If you want to yell at me because you don't like shenanigans, please do it there as well. That's great. The cats are happy, so I'm happy. So, any questions I can answer at this point? Is everybody just hot and ready to go?
We were promised watermelon.
A little warm.
It's really interesting. I'm learning Laravel right now, and a lot of the way that the syntax is written, like well, like the HTML templates and stuff, is very similar, and yeah, it's just really interesting.
It's really fun to see, especially if you're writing in Laravel or whatever. The conventions are the same. You're still going to, send a request to the server, send a response back. Like, it's all there. Node just makes it like it's fast, it's scalable, and again, for the apps that it's right for, it's really easy to get an app rocking from 0 to 60 and super fast. Plus, it's pretty scalable, and you can use on the back end, or not on the back end, for databases, Mongo or SQL, and that's an argument you can have all day long as far as the uses for each of those. But you can plug in whatever database you want. You can plug in whatever front-end framework you want. Like, it's really great that way for sure. So, well, cool. If you need anything else, please come chat with me afterward. I'd love to meet some of you. I do live in Colorado Springs, so I'll have to head back home here in a little bit. I just drive up there once in a while to work several days a week. So thank you so much for coming, and y'all have a great day.